This isn't just merch, it's what teams wear when they mean business. Every stitch, every print, every detail, made to perform. Trusted by the grind, from grassroots to championship halls. Build your team store. Wear the brand that wins. SpartanWare, trusted by the grind.
RSCast is the stats that we're bringing. Stream alerts, you know that's where we're pinging. The usual plays and the fails that we're showing. How's the week gone? It's what we're reviewing. Yeah. Rhino cast in the flesh, he's made the attendance. Paying for him, drained all of our RSC's account balance. He's made it big now, casting the main event action. Doesn't cast for us now, does it not give him satisfaction? Biggest sus is his name, but of course we can't forget the sir. Team Surrey haven't missed you as AGM, it was a blur. Didn't take long to win franchise of the season without you. Finally got yourself a haircut, that's so long way overdue. Well, we got ourselves a real life lunchbox on screen. With Kingsman around, there's one less player on your team. Dan Skew didn't want to run it back, not surprised man. Even scared of cash so fast, he flew straight to Japan. Lastly, Ma, please do us a favor and don't break the stream. If you didn't have VMix, you wouldn't even be on the team. RSCast is the stats that we're bringing. Stream alerts, you know that's where we're pinging. The usual plays and the fails that we're showing. How's the week gone? It's what we're reviewing.
We've done it again, folks. Welcome back to another episode of RSCast, and you can see the boys are absolutely loving it. Rhino, Pegasus, Kingsman. I've pointed the wrong way. Listen, it's mirrored, all right? It's difficult to figure it out. It's fine. Don't even worry about it. We're going to get into this one. Pegasus, how you feeling?
I'm feeling very, very good, and I see why it's easy to make that mistake, because now Kingsman is matching the background with all of us. You can't just point at the guy that doesn't have a green screen anymore. Now it's way harder to decipher between us. If it helps for next time, maybe you could go for one that looks a bit more ghostly than the rest of us right now.
Yeah, there's definitely differences to pick out for sure. Kingsman, obviously, you know, we've got the upgrade, we've got the budget finally in RSCast to give you a green screen. How are you feeling about it?
Good, I guess. In the next one, I got to put in a higher quality webcam, I think, to be properly matching, or some ring light that Pegasus was talking about that
definitely lighting.
Blows the budget.
It's lighting,
he says,
not the webcam.
No. It definitely is. Let me blame the webcam. I've been blaming it for years, but yes, we're all back again. I mean, this consistency, guys. What is going on here? What is this? We haven't missed a single one so far. We're 4 out of 4. I mean, this is getting really strange now. Are we sure none of us are holograms?
Yeah, I literally call this the most consistent RSC-based podcast 2 weeks into this season, knowing full well that we were likely to miss probably the week after. And here we are, all four of us, because Mal's still pushing the button. Not knowing. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that we're here. And something that we have gone back to a lot over the course of RSCast so far this season, and you're going to have to take a few drinks to start with that drinking game I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, because we're going to talk about the 5-week season, Pegasus. We literally have 1 week left. We're here.
Yeah, it's the 5th week. Chances are there might be a team that has already played all their league play matches. They've shoved it in Monday, Tuesday, played one at HCT. They'd actually be completely done right now. So we'll be able to find that out a little bit later. But this is the big one. This is where we unfortunately have to put our hats on for every single league table and work out, is it possible for this team to squeeze in or not? This is the mathsy episode of RSCast, and not the part of it that I'm particularly good at. Maybe the one that I suck the most at. So we'll have to see.
I was going to say, if only one of us was studying mathematics at university, then maybe they could help us with the work we're doing. But yeah, I guess not. Kingsman, obviously, final week. your team are looking towards those playoff spots, play-in spots. Now that we are in the final week, how do you feel that the season has gone on the whole?
Yeah, good. I think it's only got better. If you want to look at my team specifically, it's got better as the weeks have gone on. But I think as a franchise as a whole, the quickfire season gives, shall we say, gives less reward to those teams to have a bad day, shall we say, or a bad week even, in a sense. Or unless you're Blaze and you've decided to have a bad season.
Well, we'll talk about those a little bit later on, won't we, Kingsman? But it will be very interesting to see if they are able to get more than those 2 points that we saw them on last week. Speaking of last week, we have got to go through all of the things that happened in the previous week here in RSC, because that's literally our job. That's what this podcast is for. So, with the weekly recap, we will start, as we always do, in Academy with the results from last week's action. And Pegasus, Glacies Conference, we're back again. We're going to start on the trail. How did Glacies go in Academy last week?
Again, it's a lot of sweeps on our screen this time, but unfortunately for one team, if we want to go week by week, the wheels have really fallen off here for Team Serene. They get a sweeping defeat against Rain, who then went on to lose to Riffle, so still couldn't even feel the full impact of it. But they also drew Purpose, which, albeit is not a poor result by any means. Purpose have been the top team for quite some time now. They were also able to pull off a sweep versus Anubis, but we are a long way away from the same Team Serene team that was winning every single week. Very double win as well, but it could always be worse. You could be SCR, who have consistently not done very well this season, and that continued in week 4. They got swept by Azteca Coyotel. They got swept by Gadalians, Anubis as well, who actually have a week still somehow land neutral after getting swept by Purpose themselves, but at least they can look at their opponents from that first series of the week and go, you know, at least I am not them. But Riffle will be the team to look out for. An amazing end to their 4th week. They managed to pull off that series win against Rain, that team that looked like it was in a bit of form at the moment, and then also managed to get that sweep alongside tonight alongside it. So 7 out of the 8 possible points picked up in such an important week because, guys, I don't know if you've heard, it's a 5-week season, so we're actually approaching the end of it now.
Drink. Moving on, as Kingsman, I'm looking over on the Ignis side. Only 1 sweep in Academy. Is that not a bit odd?
No, not really. We see some weeks where there's no sweeps. But yes, only 1 4-0 result, and it was from Hayes on to Trickery. Alongside this, there was only 1 team to go double win, and you think, oh, maybe it's Hayes. Maybe Hayes have had a brilliant week this week, but no, they actually fell to the double win team themselves in Husky. Husky went 6-2 this week, picking up a 3-1 win over Ascent and a 3-1 over Hayes. And yeah, lots of draws around. Obviously, Origin, Calidus, and Bro all going double draw this week. So a very stable week potentially for the Academy standings, but don't be surprised if we see Arconix and Husky move up the table and fly up a few spots.
Well, we've got to take a look at the league standings then, haven't we, to see if that is exactly what has happened. Firstly, though, we will start in the Glacies Conference. We'll see what those scores on the left-hand side of your screen have done to the current standings at this current point in the season. And Pegasus, talk us through the movers and shakers. What?
Well, yeah, I no arrows. That's okay. I somewhat prefer this, actually. I do somewhat prefer this, to be completely honest. But let's get one thing very quickly out of the way for this stream, because it's going to be mentioned a bunch. For the play-ins, for the playoffs, 6 of the 10 teams qualify. Oh, hold on a minute. Are we going to... No, still cats. That's completely fine. I like the cats. But top 3 teams are guaranteed to make the playoffs. which is played on a weekend, Saturday, Sunday. First place is guaranteed to enter with 2 lives. Second and third will have to play the opposing conference's second and third to keep that second life heading into playoffs, but they are guaranteed at least 1. Fourth gets a third round bye in play-ins. Fifth and sixth have to start right at the very beginning and have the longest journey to playoffs. So just thought we'd get that one out of the way. You can also see the bracket probably somewhere on the RSC server from previous seasons. It is unchanged completely. But top 3 on this table, it's Purpose, followed by Riffle and Anubis. Anubis went neutral this week after sweeping and getting swept, so that's created a 2-game difference between themselves and Riffle. In previous weeks, we would say that isn't all that much. It really is now when you've only got 8 games to work with. Purpose also just only getting themselves ahead by that 1 game against a Riffle team that is in so much form and picked up 7 wins this week. There could be some movement right there at the top of the table. Drengir close to guaranteeing themselves a playoff spot with just being 1 win away behind Gadalians. And for Yanito, Rain, Tutanai, Coyotel, and Livens, I would say this is a fight for top 6 with Yanito somewhat in that hybrid role. But certainly from 6th to 9th, this is all going to go down to the wire. As for SCR Ascendants, only 5 wins, unfortunately for them. They're not really in the conversation, but are still going to be a very important talking point for the teams that are going to play against them.
Yeah, for sure. And if there is a game happening between any of those 4 teams, 6th to 9th, in this final week, oof, that will be very exciting to see as well. So maybe we'll get that. But before we take a look at the Glacies fixtures, we first have to look at the Ignis standings and see exactly what happened with the movements after the fixtures that Kingsman took us through just a moment ago. How are the standings looking, Kingsman?
Well, Origin, even though they went double draw, they sit nicely at the top of the league on 22 wins. Husky, I mentioned, the only team to go double win. They benefit in a big regard. They move up to second, 19, tied with Bro, who another one of the teams to go double draw, along with Kalados. I guess if you go double draw, you're doomed for success. And then you've got Hayes in 5th on 16, the last of the equal teams, and then Trickery, Unitox and Blaze all on 14 on what the race for that final spot is going to look like. Trickery getting swept by Hayes, clearly not ideal, because if Trickery just got 1 game out of it, they would both be tied on 15. Then below them, you've got Ascent on 12 and Shell on 10. No one is mathematically out of it yet, but a series behind with only 2 to go is a mountain to climb.
Yeah, it is, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. And we talked earlier that we were going to be going through the mathematics. Don't know what I was trying to say there that got me confused, but trying to go through the maths. And no one eliminated from contention right now in Academy Ignis, which means that the fixtures going into this final week are all important. Let's take a look at exactly what is about to happen in this 5th and final week of RSC action for Season 17, starting with Glacies and Pegasus.
Well, this is a really hard matchup for Tutanai last night. They have to play Anubis, a top 3 team. They're one of those teams that was in that 6th to 9th range that we were looking at to try and get themselves in a playing spot. Rain has also already played Coyotel. That's 6th versus 8th, so that's very much in that bracket as well. As per usual, if anyone in the chat could report, that would be wonderful, so we can know the results of that one. We also got Rain playing Livens at some point today, if they haven't already. That's 6th versus 9th. That is also in the range, so Rain can have this completely at their own hands if they can grab both of those victories. Purpose, top of the table, are playing SCR Ascendants, who I hate to say are looking like the team that should be 3 wins to pick up for teams all across the bracket, especially in such a vital week. But then having to play Riffle a little bit later down the line, that's where it's going to get tough. Off the back of a 7-1 week, they're currently sitting in 2nd place. They're already going to have to chase Purpose, who are off the back of playing SCR Ascendants beforehand. So potential for drama there, but definitely luck of the draw has gone towards Purpose. We've got Coyotel versus Tutanai. That's 7th versus 8th. We've got Anubis versus Drengir as well. Drengir are a bit higher flying. They're trying to get themselves into those playoff spots at the moment. So this is a vital game for them. And then Unito were that team that were awkwardly in the middle. Maybe could compete for top 3. Should be able to hold top 6. But disasters could certainly happen. Especially with Livens fighting for their lives in that 9th place spot. But very much matching those in 7th. And of course then playing the extremely on-form Riffle.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to be a belter to end the week, that's for sure. 2 games yesterday from Glacies, 3 games yesterday in Ignis. Kingsman, talk us through it.
Yeah, none of the same team playing twice yesterday. So, Ascent, Calidus, Unitox Bro, and Hayes versus Origin. My one to pick out of those 3 would be Hayes versus Origins. Obviously, Origin top of the table, double draw. But Hayes were the team to go positive last week. A sweep under their belt that might give them some confidence going into this game. Another game I picked up was Calidus and Bro. Both teams I know have picked up several reports of drawing, at least both double draw last week. Both won't want to end the season on draws. They'll want to confirm themselves a top 3 spot if possible. So that game on the 26th will be one to look out for. And then the final one is both of Trickery's matchups. Trickery obviously had it tough getting swept once last week, and now they've got to pull the results out again as they play Double Win Husky and Ascent, who need results to make the postseason. I mean, if you're Trickery, you need to be pulling out results out of that. One bad result against Ascent, and Husky will not show you mercy.
No, they certainly won't. And we have been reported a couple of games as well. Rain 2, Coyotel 2 in the Glacies Conference, as well as actually Godalians versus Tutanai going 2-2. And then Hayes took down Origin 4-0, and Choms took down Xinjiang 4-0. That is a speculative one, but that we're going down that route as well. So a couple of draws in Glacies, a couple of sweeps in Ignis sets up a very interesting final week. Let's then move on to Prospect and look at the week 4 results for the Prospect tier. As always, we start with Glacies and Sir Pegasus. What happened in Glacies last week?
Well, there are very few sweeps this time, so we'll give them a proper mention. Everyone taking games off each other, and I believe not a single draw in the Glacies Prospects Conference, which has historically been a very close one. But SCR, we see them pick up a win. They get a 3-1 versus Godalians. However, there was also a sweeping loss towards Team Serene Yokai alongside that, which wasn't going to be great for their season. Tide also able to pull off a 4-0 versus Devotion. That one was somewhat expected. Same can be said about Thunder versus Nettle. But the real close games that we were looking out for in the last week were the likes of Yaskari versus Keanu, who managed to get themselves a 3-1 win there. There was also Boulder versus Impact, which were 2 teams trying to get themselves into the conversation for top 6, especially Godalians. And they faced defeats there as well to the hands of SCR. Keanu versus Umagis. This was one of those really close matchups at the top of the table. That one fell to DSQ as well. And in fact, Tide losing a game to Nanettle could prove important in the future, depending on how close that bracket is, to help secure that top spot. But a lot of traded games overall here happening in the Glacies Conference, which should lead to a bit of a blow up on the table as well.
Should. We will find out if it does in a little bit. But first, we've got to hear from Kingsman Gas about what happened in Ignis in Prospect.
Yeah, I mentioned that Academy was very close in Ignis. Well, not to be the same in Prospect. We've had an 8-0 team, but also an 0-8 team. Occultus were the 8-0 team. They got a sweep onto Tomfoolery and a sweep onto Obscurity. A storming set of results in week 4, and that will set them up very nicely. Honourable mention as well to Snap, who went 7-1, and the second team to sweep Tomfoolery in tomfoolery's 0-8 week, which must have been absolutely miserable to have been a player, and picking up a 3-1 win against Embark. But yeah, only 3 draws total in the prospect tier, and of course, again, a bit like Academy, Bro feature in both of them, getting a draw against Spark and a draw against Fenrir. Are Bro going to be known as the draw merchants anytime soon?
Well, we'll find out in just a moment as we take a look at the current standings, but we do have to look at the Glacier standings first, and based on all of the results that we saw just a moment ago, yeah, this could be a very interesting table, Pegasus.
It really can be. I mean, top 2 seem rather defined at this point, with Thunder and Tide with Keanu having potential to push towards that spot, but they're more likely looking at the teams behind him. And I just realised what a cat that is, and I'm trying to see if she is noticing or just sleeping. Okay, well, Finbar makes it to the RSC-EU stream. That is Katie's cat, who's not doing very well at the moment. He's a bit sick, but he'll be fine. Keanu is in that 3rd place spot with 19 game wins. We got arrows though. Oh no, they got rid of Finbar. Finbar. Unlucky. But Keanu will be more likely looking at the teams right behind them, because they're actually closer to 7th place right now than they are 2nd. I believe it's actually equal amongst those 2 ways. So Yaskari, Umagas, Yokai, and Boulder are all going to be teams to look out for to potentially steal a top 3 spot, but especially just make sure they secure themselves in top 6. And this is why I said it was important that Gadalians took that defeat versus SCR, because SCR seem very much out of the competition here, but have still caused a lot of chaos for Gadalians moving forward. As for Devotion and the Nettle, technically within an 8-game range, but that's just unrealistic.
Unrealistic against the odds, but not impossible. Could still happen. You just don't know. You got to keep pushing forwards. Every game matters in this shorter season format. Drink. As we move forwards then over to the other side in the Ignis Conference, and what have the results last week done to the Ignis standings? Kingsman Gas.
Yeah, 7-1 snap. Wow. Almost mathematically guaranteed 1st place. What a season they've had, far ahead of the rest. 25 wins, and they are 7 clear of Occultus and Spark, but Occultus showing how critical that 8-0 week was, as it leapfrogs them to 2nd place in the table, just ahead of Spark in 3rd on 18. Fenrir, they managed to hold place, the only team to hold place on 17 wins. Then you got Bro with 15 wins in 5th. I never thought I'd see a team with a 44% win rate still in the play-ins, but Obscurity are that team. They have got 14 wins total. Then you got Ankoli Witusi on 13. Tom Fuller, who went 0-8, mind, still in the hunt on 13. Same with Core and Embark. All of them are only 1 game behind play-ins. And actually, Occultus are closer to 10th place Embark than they are to 1st place Snap. I mean, this is a ridiculously close Ignis table, and Snap have just been the team to absolutely snap top of the league away from everyone else.
What is it with Ignis in Academy and Prospect? Things going absolutely crazy. This week 5 results are going to be very interesting to see. Every single game counts. Not just that. It's not just about wins anymore. You got to get sweeps. You really have got to try and make every single game that you possibly can in this final week of Ignis Prospects, because it's so unbelievably tight. Let's take a look then at how the teams are going to try and get into those play-ins and playoffs. It's the fixtures for week 5, and starting in Glacie's Pegasus, we've had a couple of games already.
Yeah, I would say one of the matches of the week actually has already been played, and spoiler, no, it's not Yaskari versus Boulder, although that definitely has the potential to be, with currently 4th versus 7th. But Thunder versus Keanu, that's 1st versus 3rd. Keanu were that team, but I said actually were looking a bit closer to 6th place as opposed to those above them. So they will be looking to try and get some points there against a Thunder team that did scrape themselves a draw in the previous week. So there is a chance that they could have taken that, but I guess we'll just wait to see if a chatter will be so nice to update us. We've got 10th versus 9th with the Nettle versus Devotion, and then 9th versus 8th with Devotion versus Impact. So Devotion able to impact the teams around them, with one of which being of the very same name, but unfortunately these are the teams that are not exactly in range to get themselves in the top 6. As for Yokai, this is a very different story. Having to play top of the table Thunder on the 24th, and then on the 25th, having to play Ascari that are competing for a very similar position to themselves at 4th place, definitely could shake up the table. Same with Boulder versus Umagis, which I would say is actually my second best matchup of the week, with 7th place Boulder having to take down 5th place Umagis. This has a lot of potential to be one of those matchups that decides who makes it to play-ins and who doesn't. And that continues heading into the next day, where second place tied will have to play Umagis and SCR Impacts, just trying to get themselves to remain in that top 3 spot and potentially steal the top 1 if they can. And the final one at the bottom of our screens is Nettle versus Keanu. That's 10th place versus 3rd. Just one for Keanu to really secure that spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we say, though, those teams that are towards the bottom of the table, it is still possible, technically. So don't give up. And also, it's a lot of fun to play spoiler to other teams around you. So I'm sure they will be trying. Meanwhile, over in Ignis Conference, it's going to be a fight right the way to the end, Kingsman.
Yes, it is. There won't be any team that looks to give up here. Maybe apart from Snap, who are already on the beach as they've secured top. But they have Ankoli Watusi in 7th, who have probably the toughest week you can find. They have 1st and 2nd. Obviously, Occultus coming off an 8-0 week. Snap coming off a 7-1 week and being already secured. I mean, maybe they haven't played any sub-games. Maybe they just get disqualified right at the end for forgetting. But no, it's a very strong performance from them. And I think Snap will like to end the season the same. And Ankoli Watusi have a big job ahead of them. The other team I've picked up, obviously Tomfoolery need to bounce back from that 0-8 week as they've dropped out of the top 6. They play Obscurity, a team 1 win ahead of them, holding on to that 6th place spot, which they're trying to grab away. And they also play Embark, who are bottom of the table and winless in their last 5. So very interesting to see whether Tomfoolery could pick up form when it matters and just limp over the finish line.
We'll see if they are just about going to be able to make it in to the postseason very soon. There you go, your week 5 matchups for prospects. Let's move up then in the tiers. Let's have a look at the challenger tier. And as we do so, of course, all of the results from the previous week, from week 4. What happened in Glacy's Chally, Pegasus?
Gonna put the pressure here on Azteca a bit early, dropping a bit too many points for my liking here. First of all, not sweeping Gadalians, who are currently bottom of the table. That's okay, at least they still picked up the win. But same cannot be said when they played 9th place Treb as well, only managing to pick up a draw from that result. They had a day where they could have played 9th place and 10th place, wasn't able to pick up a sweep from either of them, wasn't even able to pick up a series win from both of them. So they will be left feeling somewhat disappointed that they did not get more out of it. But in this challenger tier, definitely lots of teams can take games off each other, but SER Kaizen also getting a victory over Shivas, who at least can leave a week with 2 games, is pretty solid for them. It gets interesting with DSQ. Double draw week for the likes of them. Team Serene, they got one against, and that was one of the teams we were looking at a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, not on that same kind of form as this series comes to a closure, and also picking up a draw versus Mistaken. Those are some decent results for DSQ. Some more draws also fall towards the way of Thralls, who swept Swell, and also who drew Swell, and also drew Trabe later in that week alongside. But a great week fell towards, once again, it's Death Cloud, who were only one of 2 teams to go double win this week. They picked themselves up a sweep and a 3-1, with a 3-1 against Team Serene being a pretty good result, and a sweep against Swell being pretty decent as well. But SCR managed to get the exact same record with Shivas and Dynasty as both their opponents.
So there you go, an interesting week from Glacies, and as far as I can count, it's a 5-draw week from Glacies as well as it is over on Ignis, Kingsman.
Yes, Rhino can count. This is, I don't know whether we should applaud or not. I feel like this is something he should be able to do it at his...
It's important to remind yourself of that every so often, you know?
True, at his mighty age, he should be able to, I feel, but
right.
Enough about age.
Wow.
There was 3 teams this week to go double draw, and can we guess what franchise, guys? What franchise went double draw?
I mean, we can't see them.
Well, yeah, no,
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
but
I
which,
don't
which,
wanna-
which team have seemingly in every single tier so far drawn every game?
I'm assuming it's the team that have gone double draw this week.
It's Bro. It's
Yeah.
Bro
Yeah,
again.
it's Bro.
They've done it again.
It's Bro.
Another 2-2 week. I mean, this is, come on, guys. You've got to tell them at some point they need to win series. Draws can't just be drawing the series. But yeah, another double draw week from them. 2 sweeps, one from Ember and one from Mischief, but neither team able to convert a double win. That glory fell to Amarok, who pulled off a 3-1 win against fellow High Flyers Pulse, and a very, very good 3-1 against Snow. Snow probably the one that was more expected, but the Pulse win is a very good result as well.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it'll be interesting to see what that double draw again for Bro has done in regards to the standings. But first, we do need to take a look at the Glacies standings, and let's see where everybody sits going in to the final week, Pegasus.
Again, it's a very secure spot at the top of the table for Death Cloud's Atmos, as they go back to their double winning ways. They did actually get a loss in the weeks beforehand, but as you can see, with a 75% conversion so far, that's not a common affair. They're 4 wins away from Aztec and Chamali, who I said were rather wasteful in that past week to pick up as many wins as they could. Kaizen, Canaans, and Frolls all sit within range with 18 and 17 wins between them. Swell round off the 6th, with 15 game wins to their name. And that puts them more in competition with the teams below them to steal their spot. Team Serene Psycho on 14, Dynasty and Trabe both on 13, and Shivas, again, technically, I believe having enough, but likely out of the competition here.
Please go 4-0-4-0 this week just to see what happens. Oh, that would be so funny. I would very much enjoy seeing what would happen in the table if that were to happen, but we don't even know who they're playing yet, so we'll see if that is the case in just a moment. But first, before we check out the fixtures for week 5, we've got to check out what happened in Ignis in week 4 and how that affected the table. And Kingsman, any surprises here?
Well, I wouldn't say so. I'd say Amarok staying with Mischief at the top of the table was very much to be expected. But no real surprises. Obviously, Pulse not picking up a series win drops them into the midfield pack on 18. Obviously, the top two on 23, so it is a 2-way fight for first place now going into that final stages. Then you got Rise and Ember on 17 and 16. Obviously, Rise going double draw for the 2nd week in a row, picking up the odd result. Then you got Ember on 16 and Eclipse on 15, rounding out the top 6. Then a 2-game gap sits to Chasing Pack in Fujiyoshi, Snow, and Bro. Apparently, it proves if you just double draw your games, you're still in contention with the top 6. And then right at the bottom, a team which hasn't been even drawing is Qantas on 10 wins, not out of it by a long slide. 5 games is very, very comebackable, but it is a challenge with the amount of teams in between them.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, they're not as out of it as we saw previously, and the previous conference, but it's going to take a monumental effort in this final week, isn't it, for Qantas to get up into that 6th position. But there is still the potential that they could absolutely do it. How are they going to get there, you ask? Well, let's take a look at the fixtures for week 5 and where exactly we sit on and who needs to play who. Pegasus, starting with Glacies, already 1 game played yesterday.
Indeed, and it was Treeb versus Shivers. So that is 9th versus 10th on the table at the moment. I said Treeb were very much still in conversations to potentially seal away a top 6, but likely not for DSQ. Treeb then will go on to play Swirl, who are that team sitting in that 6th place spot. So those are the gatekeepers that you want to potentially knock out the way there. Psycho also going to be playing Chamali and Kaizen. SER have been really strong this season, so that's going to be quite a tough matchup here for Team Serene. And as for Razteca, on paper, that's of course a really tough team to have to place because they are 2nd overall. But when they had such an easy week last week, if you just look at it on paper, they're actually my team to look out for to see if they're going to be able to keep these performances going right at the end of the season or if they're going to run out of steam. Because they also will play Dynasty. They're an 8th place team. That's another one they should have picked up, but we've said that all before. Swirl are going to be playing Canaan, so that's going to be a really tough match for Swirl, especially with all those teams around them trying to steal their spot. Atmos is going to be playing SER Kaizen. That's 1st versus 3rd place, so might be a bit of a preliminary matchup for the playoff stages, depending on how that one goes. Atmos also playing Canaan, so that's going to be 1st versus 3rd, followed by 1st versus 4th. Makes quite a tough week here for DeathCloud, so they're going to prove what they're made of before that playoff stages too. And then finally, Frow's throwing all their games till the very end. They're one of those teams that are just trying to hold on to their spot currently in 5th place. They'll play both Shivers and Dynasty.
There you go, an interesting week in Glacies. What's happening over in Ignis, Kingsman?
Yeah, well, I mentioned there was a team gatekeeping that 6th place spot at the minute in Eclipse, where like they've got a job on their hands. They run into top of the table Amarok, who need to outscore Mischief, do whatever they do better. I didn't mention this, by the way, but they have a plus 56 goal difference to Amarok. I mean, that's incredible. They should be able to shoot their way to the top of the table. However, it's easier said than done, as Amarok's other game in what probably has to be on stream. Someone has to stream it. Amarok play Mischief in their 2nd series of the day. It is 1st versus 2nd. Winner takes 1st place, and you couldn't set it up any better for a final week showdown. With Mischief would have already played Ember at this point, and Amarok would have already played Eclipse. Both teams will know exactly what they need to do to claim that 1st place spot for themselves. It is an absolute thriller here in week number 5. Obviously, with the 5-week season being shorter now, it makes it a lot tougher for teams, and it makes matchups like this so season defining.
Yeah, it certainly does. And with it being the final week, of course, everything is on the line. Everything is up for grabs. Got to work hard to try and get yourself into that postseason. Let's go up then once again in our tiers and take a look at week 4, what happened in the penultimate week in Rival. As we switch over and as we say, take a look at this tier and Glacies. What happened there in week 4, Pegasus?
Well, I'm going to start off with the matches that I remember hyping up in the previous weeks, and one of which was Phoenix versus Caligo. That was a close to the top of the table matchup, and DSQ were able to go all the way on that one. They pick up a 3-1 win there, and then for my 2nd matchup of the week, it was another top matchup. It was another one that included Caligo, and unfortunately, top of the table was just a bit too much of them. Identity pick up a 3-1 win there, and that will pair nicely with the 4-0 they managed to get against Scath as well. That will put them on a 7-1 week, they were not the only team that faced. They were not the only team that they ended up facing that sweeping result to. They also got swept by Shinjuru. I believe this one was on stream. I think I saw that one on stream. If this is the team that has Meaty Pig on it, so that was how that one went. Also, there's Vortex versus Shinjuru. That's a good draw picked up there from Vortex, who are currently bottom of the table. So to be able to draw a team in second place is very impressive. Drawing Floki, who are currently 8th, not necessarily as much, but overall, some points picked up from bottom of the table. That's what we like to see. But Carl's right at the top. They also got themselves a draw versus Draw Merchants Floki, and then picked themselves a 3-1 result versus Tizok. That's going to be an important matchup when you want to look at the top 6 fight a little bit later. But overall, some pretty interesting results, and I like the way that Floki was able to shake up the bracket a little bit here.
Always fun going into the final weeks when we get someone who just does maybe more than they're expected, or more than they have done so far this season. It's great to see. Did anything happen over on the Ignis side other than the sad face that our producer has drawn, Kingsman?
Well, I said Bro liked to draw, but they didn't have to spice up the draws to a 1-1. For those of you, obviously, who don't know why this is a 1-1 or think this is a glitch, no, Mal has not broken stream for once. This was done as a result because 2 games had no proof of result. So we're listed as a double forfeit, which is a shame at this point, I think, for both teams, because you don't want to be seeing losses just thrown away at this point. However, Cuzzies in their other game were able to pick up a 3-1 over High Flyers Marvel, a big result against the turn. And, well, Raiju in their other game picked up a draw against Aptus. So both teams did all right in their other game. Just a shame they couldn't pick up the result where it's needed. And, of course, as always, with this, no sweeps, and of course, there's going to be 2 teams going double draw in Chianina and I think I've probably butchered that, and Mirage. Both of those managed to go double draw here. If you want to, I'll ignore the 1-1 result. But yeah, to keep pedaling along, and no team went double win this week, so won't see much movement, I believe, from the table. Probably just teams keeping going towards the end of the season.
Yeah, we'll see if that is the case. A little more volatile, certainly, on the Glacies side than the Ignis side this week. So let's see what that has done to the table as we take a look at the current standings going into the final week. Glacies, how are they looking at the moment, Pegasus?
This is the first time that I can say the top spot isn't completely defined. Identity have Shinjiro within their range, just 1 game between them, which is going to lead them to regretting that draw during week 4. And Caligo and Phoenix are very close behind as well, within 2 games each. But Carl's also on 19 in 5th place. Also prove that there are a lot of teams here that can get themselves automatically qualified to playoffs. It's just going to require a really huge finish. And then there is somewhat of an abyss, a no man's land between 5th and 6th. And then we drop an entire series worth of games to find Niti Sports' Scath. They're on 15 game wins. There's a little bit of distance between themselves and Tizok, but certainly enough that it can be flipped on its head with just 2 series of Rocket League. Tizok sit on 13, Floki and Riptide are both on 12, and Vortex are on 10. Again, this is in the range where I say it's a bit too much, but I want one of these teams to really prove me wrong, because that would be just awesome. And if there was one to do it, I think this one is pretty likely. Not having to compete with as many teams as we've seen before for that 6th place spot, I do believe that Death Cloud Vortex could potentially do it. But that is, of course, going to be impacted by their schedule.
A schedule which we will take a look at in a moment. But first, we've got to take a look at the Ignis conference after 4 weeks of league play. How's everything looking over on the Ignis side in rival Kingsman?
Well, it is Thread who's threading the needle so far at the top of the table. They are just ahead of Unitox on 20 and 19, respectively. Then you've got Marvel on 17, tied with Aptus for that final top three spot. So both of those teams are going to be battling it out to see who can claim the final playoff spot. Then you've got Mirage and Flame on 15 and 14. Obviously, Mirage going double draw, just cruising along at this point. Then you've got Flame on 14, Nightfall on 13 with Cuzzies on 13 as well. And then you've got Raiju who on 12 wins, but the thing I'm going to pick up on is they've got a 0 goal difference. They've technically got the goal difference as a team that should be up there fighting for the top 3, but they're in 9th. So I wonder I wonder how that game with Cuzzies went, that they didn't have results. Did they pick up 2 extra games, which would have left them on the verge of top 6? But instead it leaves them 9th place with goal difference not really meaning anything at this point. Then just behind them, you've got Focus on 11, who went without a loss for, I think, the first time all season. So congrats to them.
Congrats to them indeed. It is still very, very close in the Ignis conference as well. Still lots to play for. In sight of a lot of teams, or in sight of every team so far at the bottom of the table. So we'll see if anybody is able to upset the apple cart in the final week with some results. But let's take a look at the fixtures then going into that week 5 for rivals, starting in Glacies. Pegasus, what should we be looking out for?
Loki versus Tizok, that's going to be a big game. That's 7th versus 8th there, with Tizok off the back of getting themselves a win as well. So a chance to double up in both weeks for a team that hasn't, unfortunately, seen the green box in quite some time. But the matchup of the week for me is Shinjiro versus Caligo, which should have concluded any second now. So hopefully we can get the results of that one. That's one that really should have been on stream, but apparently they just had something else that day that prevented it. We also have Floki versus SCR Phoenix. Phoenix heavily favored in that one, but I said that Floki were one of those teams that wanted to steal their way into the top 6 spot, and unfortunately the strength of schedule seems very tough to overcome in this case. For SCAF, Vortex should be seen as an easy side for them. They'll be wanting to secure as many wins as possible here. A draw at this point in the season, pretty unacceptable for the spot they want to hold themselves in. Vortex will also play Tizok down the line as well. Tizok are closer to Vortex on the table, but again, need to win this game if they want to progress. There's also Identity versus Riptide. That's 1st versus 9th, but Identity have to pick up their games because this is one of very few conferences where there are teams right behind them. Carl's certainly are not one of those teams, so that's going to be another one they want to pick up, but Shinjiro are. They're going to be playing Riptide. That is 2nd versus 9th place in the table, so they have to pick up those points. And then on Sunday, might be some final shufflings to the table, some that could potentially change the course of it. SCAF versus Caligo. DSQ looking at those top spots. SCAF fighting for survival, so 2 very different aims, but 2 similar levels of passion. And then Carl's versus SCR Phoenix. Both 4th versus 5th. That's going to be a huge one. And if any games beforehand do not go their way, it could also be a decisive one.
It certainly could. Thank you very much, Pegasus. Now on to week 5 for Ignis. Again, already 1 game played so far. But Kingsman, what should we be looking out for this week in Ignis?
Well, I'd look out for a Mushy P-Brains team. In Marvel, they didn't pick up a series win last week and will be a disappointing week for them. And they don't get any sort of leeway at all. They go to top of the table Thread tonight in their doubleheader, in which Thread will be looking to secure top of the league. And also Marvel go against their rivals, their direct rivals in the battle for 3rd place in Aptus, tied on wins. It's a big week for Marvel to see if they can pull the results together to keep themselves in the top 3, because even at this point, if you don't get results and you're only, was it a series ahead of 7th, a good week for them, and you might drop out the top 6 entirely, which would be a big statement for some of these teams. However, one team I've also focused on is Cuzzies. They have a real chance here. Even though with the 1-1, they still have a real chance of making top 6. They play Flame tomorrow, the team currently in that 6th place spot, and they play Focus, the team in 10th, a team that I've been picking up form, but I might maybe a little bit too late in the season, and Cuzzies could, well, either give Focus hope of the late season comeback or put them out of their misery entirely.
They certainly could. What an interesting final week going into week 5 of Rival. Right then, we are almost towards the end. We have 2 more tiers to go, and the next one up is Elite Tier. It's all about what happened last week in week 4, and Pegasus is going to talk us through Glacies to start with.
I like starting off the sweeps. They're the big results that everyone wants to talk about, and we'll start off with Guardians versus Aphrodite, SCR versus Gadalians. These are 2 teams near the lower half of the table that are trying to push themselves up closer to those top 6 placements, and for Gadalians, that is going to be great progress moving forward. Legacy getting that sweep versus Cataract is also going to be pretty significant there, because it's just no wasted games against this Cataract roster that unfortunately have not had a season that they would like to remember. And then that one right at the bottom. This is the big one for me. This was a mid-table matchup, and mid-table is where all the interest lies when you are late into a season. They're pulling off that 4-0 result versus Carbo is going to be huge for their season. However, and this is a big however, bottom of the table, Vortic, I said that Legacy made sure not to waste any games against them. Niti Sports certainly did. That is a competing for a guaranteed playoff spot team drawing against a team that is currently sat at the bottom of the table. That's going to cause a little bit of a shake-up there. SCR Guardians also go double loss this week, with Deathcloud Nefelli able to pick up a 3-1 win against them. They're one of, I believe they actually might be one of 2 teams to go double win this week alongside Mistaken Legacy. They also managed to pick up a win versus Team Serene Akami, which was the matchup that I shouted out in the previous week. And actually, for once, I shouted out a game and it ended up not just being a draw. So well done to them. But another very interesting week is Giles, who have slipped majorly. They were near the top of the table. I believe they were 2nd place beforehand, playing at Lakoya. That is one of those teams outside the range of playing spot at the moment. Only picking up a draw there is pretty disappointing. And Legacy, this is a very good week for them. This is a good few weeks for them. They've picked up so much form. It is almost fully greens when we look at their form charts, with only 1 yellow sprinkled in there. They get a 3-1 win versus Giles. They're shaking up the top of the table and are making an argument that they should be there.
They certainly are. Will they be there by the time we see the results in a moment? Well, we'll have to wait and see, because first we need to catch up with all of the Ignis results from week 4 with Kingsman Gas.
Well, you won't be surprised to hear Bro went double draw. I feel like it's deja vu. But that is not my talking point in this tier. So I will catch you guys up, because you probably don't remember. But last week, Blaze were only on 2 game wins the entirety of the season. Well, they've only gone and tripled that. They picked up a 2-2 draw against fellow strugglers Frecky, and then, in probably the shock result of the week, picked up a 2-2 draw against Bro. Now, you off the top of your head, you might go, oh, well, Bro draw with everyone. But no, they're actually top of the table. So that's a huge result for a team that essentially have no say in what happens the rest of the season. Well, they're shouting very, very loud at this point. But looking at the rest of the teams, no team going double double win here. The team that I think have picked up potentially the biggest results are Darkness, getting a 4-0 sweep onto Link, who swept Magnolia earlier in the week, and then picking up a 2-2 with Summit. If they'd beaten Summit, they'd have pushed Summit away from that top spot, but that 4-0 onto Link is a very nice result to be looking at going into week 5.
Yeah, but what has it done to the table? That's the question. We'll see in just a moment. A couple of spoilers in there already, but let's now take a look at the standings. And I'm not ready to see what's happening on the left-hand side of this. Okay, we've actually got... That's good.
No, we got arrows. We got arrows. We've also got a very spicy table right now. 3 teams at the top with 20 wins currently. So that could reshuffle any which way. Remember, first place is such an advantage compared to second and third, because you guarantee you are going to have those 2 lives. You don't even have to play on those Plains days. And currently, with how it's ordered, Giles and Akami will. But it's also a pretty major block between third and fourth, because if you drop there, you don't even have the prospect of having a life in the first place. A second life, sorry, in the first place. Big currently on 18 wins, within 2 of all 3 of those top spots, and so are Legacy. That is definitely in range for one of those spots to be stolen away. And who are we to say that Carbo and Atlakoya aren't out of that conversation as well? By the way, we've already left for playing qualifications. That is 7 names already mentioned that could swap in a multitude of ways. This is going to be completely impossible for us to work out in full detail. And who knows, maybe Aphrodite are in the talk here as well. I'd say probably not, but maybe. If the strength of schedule is there, anything can happen. Guardians and Cataract, that's where it gets a bit too far. Cataract are actually mathematically out now, but they're definitely a team that can cause some chaos. They caused some chaos in that last week with the draw they were able to pick up, so long may it continue.
Crazy, isn't it, that we're just about to come to the end of the season, like one more week to go, and it feels like that's only maybe the second or third team who are mathematically out of the running for postseason. Crazy, absolutely crazy. But everybody else still in the hunt. Got to be difficult for Guardians, as you say, but anyone between those top 7 spots is really going to be able to move and shake in the final week. Now, taking a look over at the Ignis Conference, Kingsman, is it as close?
No, I don't think anything can get as close as that. But, bro, there you go, double draw and sit at the top of the table on 22 wins, followed by Darkness, who are just creeping up from the shadows with 21 wins. Then you got Summit on 20, so the fight for first place is still very much there between the top 3. Celeritas and Deception on 70. Sorry, I butchered that. Sorry, Celery Sticks and Deception on 17 wins. Both still going to be looking potentially at first place if they have a massive week here, but it's quite unlikely. They'll probably be looking over their shoulders at Nguni on 16, Link and Frecky just outside the top 6 on 15. Bit of a hunt is on for Magnolia on 11. They need 5 over Nguni, Link and Frecky. And well, we've seen our second team in Elite saying bye-bye to the postseason. It is Blaze. As much as they picked up 4 of their 6 wins this week, they are 10 out of 8 game wins behind, so they will not be making the postseason, and week 5 will be the last we see of them.
Oh, that's a shame. That is a shame, but hey, they got a few more points than last week, so you know, at least they're not horrendously down the bottom at this point. They're still within touching distance of 9th. I believe in the Brave comeback. As we now take a look then at that final week, the fixtures that are coming up for this last moment of the regular season before we get into the playoffs. And what is the Glaciers Conference looking like this week, Pegasus?
Well, most of the teams are pushing it right up to the very end here in the Glaciers Conference. Everyone getting themselves primed and ready for what is I would say the closest conference we have seen so far. There's going to be a lot of movement in that regard, but it starts off with the games that have already happened. We've got Atlakoya versus Cargo. That's 6th versus 7th. We've got Okami versus Theag as well. Okami currently in 3rd place, Theag in 4th. And I said there was that little bit of a gap between the top 3 teams and those in 4th and below right now. That is a chance to close the gap, which we'll see whether that happened or not. Apparently, DCE were just able to beat Neat Esports, so that is current top of the table, DeathCloud, able to try and hold their spot in what is going to be such a trialed time for them. SER haven't had a win for a few weeks, but there's a chance to cause some chaos if they are able to do so, playing both 2nd and 3rd place at the moment. That is Giles and Okami. Carbo will be playing Legacy as well during this week. That's 6th versus 5th. Aphrodite are going to be playing Cataract. We got Nefeli versus Legacy, Aphrodite versus Giles, Atlakoya versus Cataract. So Cataract actually doubling up on Sunday, as are Aphrodite. This is going to be a pretty hectic Sunday. This is one that's not going to be decided until that final game gets reported.
Yeah. I mean, Sunday is just going to go absolutely crazy, isn't it? So many games to be reported, and we'll be reporting on it all this time next week here on RSCast. Moving across onto the Ignis side, and Kingsman, not quite the Sunday fun day that's over on Glacies, but a lot of interesting matchups.
No, but we could have had a Monday fun, because we saw 6th versus 4th in what is probably the biggest matchup out of those of this week, but 17 wins and 16 wins. A draw probably not good enough for either team at this stage. And then also last night, we had Bro versus Darkness. I said there was a shadow creeping up behind Bro, and I think they've arrived. As it was 1st versus 2nd, a win for Darkness will take them clear at the top, but Bro can push Darkness down into the light. And, well, a big game for those two teams. I'll look forward to hopefully seeing those results in chat. But big games either way. But looking at the rest of the table, the team I've picked out is Deception. They have a very tough week. They're on 17 as well, chasing Summit potentially for a top 3. And then if they haven't done so well in that game, they'll be looking over their shoulder for the next game as they play Link, who are going to try and force their way into the top 6. And probably their best chance to do it is against Deception if they don't get a result against Celery Sticks.
I love Celery Sticks being back. Hell yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Let's see what they're able to do. We're so back. We've been back.
Dexterity, if you fail a franchise interview, we'll never forgive you.
Or
if you change the name, my goodness.
What we would then need is we would need someone else to name themselves something close to Celery Sticks so that we could then change our Celery Sticks name.
I like that.
There you go. Glacies and Ignis all done for Elite. Let's then move on to our final tier of the day and take a look at what happened in week 4 of Master Tier, starting with Pegasus in Glacies.
Oh, we got bottom of the table, causing chaos. My absolute favourite, Montezuma, currently sat in 10th. I'm just going to ruin that for you now. Despite them going draw and win this week, they managed to get 3 games away against High Flyers Tempest and also pick up a draw versus DSQ, who are just trying to get themselves in those playing spot. That's exactly what we like to see. We'll have to see a little bit later if that's caused any real changes. But another team to look out for here is actually Team Serene, managing to take a win away from top of the table Berserkers, who also drew DeathCloud Tempest this week. So a bit of a wasteful time for Berserkers. Team Serene then went on to draw Mistaken, which is one of the lower teams currently in the standings right now. Kingsman, what a performance, because you also got a 3-1 win versus Fire In. Do you have anything to say about those 2 matches?
Well, we were meant to play our sub for one of them, but our sub got stuck in traffic. So,
Amazing. Which game? Which game?
the one against Kazuku.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and yeah, that one, I think that might have set a record for the lowest amount of goals in an RSC series. I think
Oh.
we scored like 8 goals, but in 4 games between the teams. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, very,
Oh,
very, very
From an
lethal,
absolute
shall we
minimum of
say, on
4,
both ends.
that's pretty impressive. Yeah,
Yeah,
from an
it is.
absolute minimum of 4, that is really, really interesting. But we also have SER had an absolute banger of the week. They're going to be looking to try and steal top of the table away from a slightly out of form Berserkers. I'll say they tripped up here because they have been good in the previous weeks, and that feels harsh. But a 4-0 versus Nox and a 3-1 against Zeus puts them on close to what is a perfect week 4. Getting those games in when they really do count.
Yeah, and do they as we start to head into the final week of the season, this 5-week season drink, as we move forwards to look at the Ignis results from last week. An interesting group of results. 0 draws, Kingsman.
Yeah, I am going to be one to say I don't like the draws. So thank you, bro, for losing both of your games. No, I'm toxic. I am joking. But out of all of this, the main thing to note is there was only one sweep. And it didn't come from the dominant team, Yuki. It came from Prime onto Heck, getting a nice 4-0 result onto them, being one of 3 teams to go double win this week. And, well, Prime was one of them, going 7-1 against Heck and Oaks. Abyss was one of them, picking up a 3-1 against Zenith, and a 3-1 as well against Illusion. And the final one was being probably the biggest result of the season in Ignis, getting a 3-1 win over table toppers Yuki, the dominant force in Master, the preseason winners, finally fall to Bean, and a great result for them. They also followed that up by beating fellow high flyers Virtus. So are we seeing some of these teams make late season pushes, late season big results as top of the table sides keep pushing on and destroying any chance of an upset?
Well, we are going to find out, that's for sure, as we do take a look at the standings going into that final week, and we're looking at the Glacies first. How are things looking at this particular moment going into the final week, Pegasus?
He'll tell us eventually.
Yeah, he'll get there.
He'll find the unmute button.
He'll find it. I believe in him.
Yeah, and I said some very appropriate words when I realized. But yes, this is one of the tables to wait for. Elite and Master and Glacies have cooked. So thank you, Berserkers, for having a poor performance this week, because you've really closed it down at the top of the table. You now got SER and Team Serene on your tails, with only 1 game win being the difference. Tempest, Zeus, and Maelstrom, all 3 wins away from the top spot. And again, we have reached that play-ins border already. Kingsman and the gang still have some work to do, and I believe a sub-game to be played as well to call themselves into this top 6 spot. They're 1 win away from doing so, but also not actually far away at all from getting themselves a top 3 if luck should fall their way. Nox currently on 14 game wins, definitely still could take a part mistaken and one of those teams in the 4th to 6th place range. Firein currently on 9th with 10 game wins, are still technically in it, and technically so are Montezuma, just about, but there is unlikely to be a combination there that would still work, but at a lazy look, we'll say they're there.
Sure, why not? That's what we will say for just because we can. But going into the final week, still, once again, no team out of it mathematically, even though it's going to be very difficult. Moving into the Ignis conference, how are we looking over here, Kingsman?
Well, I told you Yuki picked up a loss, but it does not stop them being top of the league. 23 wins. However, that deficit is cut. It's Prime who sit in prime position to potentially steal that first place away on 21 wins, and then it's been locking out the top three. I mean, this might be the most secure top three we've seen so far, with the Virtus being a whole series behind and the chasing pack probably all going to mess each other up. In Virtus and Abyss on 16 wins, Zenith closing out that top six on 15, but they're tied with Inferno. Then you got Oaks on 14. It's a bit of a push for Illusion, but still possible. And the same for Heck, considering Oaks, Illusion, and Heck all went double loss, and Illusion have gone double loss for the second week in a row.
They certainly have, and that is a concern. Once again, no one actually out of it. Heck still in the hunt. They do need a good week 5 though, and how are they going to get that? Let's find out with the fixtures coming through for this final week of the season. Starting in Glacies, as we always do, Pegasus. It's the biggest tier that we have here in RSC. What are the biggest games to watch out for?
Well, first of all, everyone's just trying to look to get this week over and done with. Actually, quite a lot of early schedules this time. Montezuma versus Firein should have already happened. This is 10th versus 9th. This one seems like it's a little bit for fun at this point, although Firein, I guess, are a bit closer than Montezuma in that regard. Kazoku versus Galaxy has already happened. This was a big one. This was 3rd versus 2nd, albeit they were both on the exact same game win. So if anyone has the result for that one, that was actually quite an exciting one for top of the table. And then there are games to be played today. Berserkers versus Mistaken. Kingsman? Any update on that one? I'm guessing that's a sub game, or maybe you already got that one played. I knew you had one still scheduled. How did that go?
Well, it's been spoiled, but I will not tell you whether it was with sub or not. But yes, okay. I can say we pulled out a 3-1 win against Berserkers.
Wow, so, top of the table. There you go. Yep. But they have had a little bit of a struggle. So assuming that Kazoku or Galaxy were able to get something out there, chances are Berserkers aren't top of the table anymore already. But on the topic of SCR, they also play Niti Sports Firein, so that is a top 2 team, potentially a top 1 team at this point, playing 9th place Firein. Kazoku will be taking on Maelstrom. We've then got Tempest taking on Mistaken. And Mistaken would really like to pick up this win to hold on to this top 6 spot, which I believe they have already gained themselves by this point. Montezuma take on Zeus. This is just one where Montezuma could cause a bit of mayhem near the higher part of the table. Zeus being one of those teams that wants to hold on to a playing spot. And Montezuma so far have done a fantastic job at that, so long may it continue. Berserkers will round off their week playing up against Maelstrom again. And then to close down, we've got Tempest versus Nox on the Saturday. And then finally, it's a busy weekend here for Nox. They are going to play Zeus for the final game of the season. 2 teams just trying to maintain a top 6 and make sure that Kingsman, Gas, and Mistaken cannot make it.
It's all going to go down to the wire, isn't it? So very close indeed. As that is going to do it then. For your review of the previous week, we just have to go through our franchise standings now and where all of the franchises are. We will start with the bottom half of the table and we will take a look at the top half in just a moment. But first, here we go. We are not looking at the franchise standings, I guess. Hello. No worries. Oh, there we go. We got it, folks. We got it. The franchise standings are up now.
Locked in as well. Wasn't ready.
Absolutely. Well, Pegasus, since you are locked in, you can go through our bottom 10 franchises of the season so far.
Thank you very much. Starting off with the bottom, we do have Azteca on 81 wins, closely followed up there by SCR Esports with 82. Then it is Brave Esports here on 83 on their own. And I was just looking ahead. Yes, Brave Esports I'm just going to assume that there's no one in the top 10 with above their goals against. 510 goals against Brave Esports. They are in that top spot by quite some way. I'm seeing a few 480s, and then it's a big jump down from there on out. So that is unfortunate there for Brave Esports. But moving on, we got Unitox and Gadalians on the same mark of 85. Aspire Esports and Neat Esports both on 88. And we jump up to Illusory 494 with a 6-game win gap between themselves and 14th place. And then very closely tailing Shadow Esports and Dexterity on 95. But we still haven't reached that 50% mark. Can Bro pull off the perfectly balanced season?
Well, that's going to be the question to answer, isn't it, in this top half? And Kingsman, the top 10 franchises so far this season, how are we looking? They've done it. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, there they are. There they are. It is. Your eyes do not deceive you. Bro are going for the perfect season. I'm not talking about 4-0s. I'm talking about purely draws. Whatever wins they get, they're cancelling out. But yeah, first season, top 10, very good for them. Same with Vortic and Mushy P-Brains. I guess the new franchises like to sit on 96. Apart from two more that I'll talk about later, you got DSQ on 102, tied with Mistaken on 102 as well. I will not, as much as I'd love to contribute and say we've been amazing. We've been gliding along. I'm not gonna glaze myself, but yes, you got Team Serene then on 109, clearly not doing better as good as when Pegasus was there. And then tied with them are Nexus and Chrome, two new franchises doing brilliantly. Obviously, it was more expected, I think, for Nexus with Stingray, but Chrome having an absolute masterclass of a season here up in third. And then just ahead of them is Deathcloud on 111. And to absolutely no one's surprise, it is Team Berserkers, top of the lot with 112 series wins to match.
Yeah, thank you very much for doing that, Kingsman. And I have actually just realised that in our hustle to get to franchise standings, we didn't even go through the Ignis fixtures in Master. We got all the way through all of the tiers, and we just forgot to do some extra fixtures. So, Kingsman, you can go again. Talk to us about what's happening this week.
Damn it, I'd skip past this bit in my notes. No. Oh, no. Let me scroll back up.
I know.
Here we go.
It's all gone wrong.
Games played yesterday. You had the biggest game again. I don't know how I'm being blessed with so many of these, but we had Yuki versus Prime. 23 wins versus 21. A win for Yuki surely would secure them first place. However, a win for Prime put some real nerves on that final game, with Yuki going to Virtus, who were on a bit of a slump, but still a good team on their day. And Prime going to Inferno, who will be looking to fight for every single game win as they want to steal that final top 6 spot away. The other game is Illusion versus Oaks. I think if Illusion get a win over Oaks there, Oaks can say they need a good result in their other game, and Illusion will have to get a result against Heck. I mean, it's very possible for Illusion at this point, but with 5 losses out of the last 5, I mean, I'd like to call it off at this point and say it's not very possible. I wouldn't be very surprised if they picked up a win, but I think Oaks will be in prime firing position here. The one other game I have picked up on is Bean versus Abyss. Abyss will be looking to secure that 4th place spot, and Bean, as much as they're happy with top 3, any slip up from the 2 above them or a draw and a sweep from Bean would see them be in absolute prime position to contest for that first place spot. So I think Bean are in the driving seat unless Yuki can steer themselves to the top of the pack.
Thank you very much, Kingsman. And now we can come back to our cameras after doing the franchise standings and all of the tier recaps. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your continued work on bringing all of those back. And yeah, Pegasus, remembering that he's coming back to his camera this time, we love to see it. So we will move on then in the recap of the week, as we need to see the clip and the fail of the week. It's one of our favorite parts. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Nice.
He's right. And we do. We want top tier mechanical plays for the clip of the week. Were we able to get that this week, though? We'll find out by taking a watch of the clip of the week and everything that you guys submitted. Take it away.
It's that time of the week again. RSC-EU's Clip of the Week, brought to you by trophi.ai. Use code RSC-EU to get 12% off Rocket League coaching for 12 months. Now, let's check out the plays.
Well, there you go, your clips of the week. And Sir Pegasus, finally, one of the bounties that you have applied got successfully completed.
And I did not expect it to come from the prospect tier, but maybe I should have, because I know they're the ones that really like to watch RS cars. rsc-eu, fantastic job. That's exactly what I wanted. I've been calling it a Eugen because like one TikToker calls it that, and honestly, it's just stuck by me ever since. It's when you're on that. It's when you're going up the wall. You do a sideways flick into it immediately. It comes off the ceiling. You can catch it with a reset. You can catch it just with your car and continue an air dribble. You can do a double tap. You can do whatever you want, but it is categorized by flipping into the ball as you go up the wall, and it comes down off the ceiling straight into you. Catching it with a reset and carrying it on like that. That was added bit of flair. That surpassed my expectations. That is a bounty hit, so it gets my vote.
There you go. Yeah, it's pretty clear what Pegasus is wanting to vote for his clip of the week. Kingsman, what were you impressed by?
The goal I actually got to see live, and the comms I got to hear for the goal live. Yeah, no, I remember, and the guy I had to send the form to for clip of the week as well because he wanted to submit it. Yeah, Cosmanic. I remember the reaction of him. He just didn't expect this. So he just screamed. I don't know why that was his reaction, but I think that's what made it even better. It's a shame we don't see it, to be honest. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with Cosmanic. I think apart from that, my favorite shot would have been Shadows. It's a nice redirect onto the backboard and a nice double as well. One of the few not to bounce as well, shall we say?
Kingsman always likes to make sure that those kinds of shots don't bounce on the floor. So it was a nice one, absolutely. However, the poll is over, and it doesn't matter what you say, Kingsman. You cannot take the clip of the week away from rsc-eu. He will take the victory, as he definitely gets the win. And congratulations go to him for clip of the week. So let's remind ourselves of all of those clips that have been submitted, and your winner for the week, rsc-eu.
It's that time of the week again. RSC-EU's Clip of the Week, brought to you by trophi.ai. Use code RSC-EU to get 12% off Rocket League coaching for 12 months. Now, let's check out the plays.
There you go, your clips of the week from week 4, and JC Zenio, your winner. Pegasus, would you like to set another bounty for clip of the week next week?
Absolutely. So we got one of these wall plays that I asked for coming off the surface. Next, I want a fancy flip reset. So not your standard. I'm not going to accept rapid resets either. So when you pre-flip into the ball for a reset, unless it's one of a fancy kind. So I want a Muri. I want a helicopter reset. I want a Yaxi. I want a helicopter. I want a stall. I want something special like that to either, catch a reset off the ceiling or to use to grab yourself a second reset. And because I really like the idea that there's people listening to RSCast and that it's affecting all of their professional games, guys, let's go for a psycho in this final week. I know you're probably playing for top 6. I know you're probably playing for top 3. But I kind of want to be the reason someone's season is ruined because a player wants to hit one of my bounties. So if we could go for psychos, that would be awesome. Because if you hit a psycho in week 5, that is the second best time to hit one next to playoffs. It would be so cool. So everyone go for psychos and everyone go for fancy flip resets.
Well, look, the point is...
And a defensive clip.
And we want a defensive clip.
Right.
Look,
yeah.
Me and Kingsman are not involved in this. Kingsman is clearly not happy about the situation that's happening right here. Neither am I. We are removed from all excuse, right? This is Pegasus's thing, not ours.
Well, I think if Pegasus should be able to set a bounty, he should be able to hit the shot himself to show everyone in RSCast how it's done and show the viewers as well how it's done. So Pegasus, get going on some psychos, get going on some fancy resets, and then we can show them to stream.
I'll do some fancy resets. I can't promise a psycho. You know what? I will hit the bounty for next week. I'll do it in training. I'm not doing it in game. I don't play the game like that.
No,
I'll give you some fancy resets for next week.
Can't be in training. You got to have
I don't play the game.
You got to be in an RSC Week 5 league play match for 6th place.
I'm unsigned. I'm unsigned, I'm afraid. I'm unsigned. I'm a busy man.
Anyway,
look, no. I'm not ruining someone's season. I've done enough damage.
He's done enough damage. We've got enough things still to go through. And of course, next up, as always, is our fail of the week. Are there any failed psychos in this group of clips? We'll find out. Let's take a look.
And now we have rsc-eu's fail of the week, brought to you by trophi.ai. Haha, well, if you're on the video this week, you should probably go and buy yourself some coaching under code rsc-eu.
Oh God, that is
no
right. Just talk it through, Pegasus. Talk it through. Let your feelings out.
No, I'm not falling for it. That's scripted.
No?
That's scripted. Okay. That is people trying to farm fail of the week. You get a fancy role for the week, and people want it. They've shared it around so everyone can get one. I just don't believe it. There was one of those shots on the goal lines. I think it was Chebs going straight towards the ball, and he literally didn't even have to flip, and he flipped out the way unchallenged. I genuinely think there's a case here that we need to check the replays. This could be fixed. This is suspicious. This is Young Money Clan.
Oh, you did not need to invoke that name. Goodness gracious. Kingsman, I think you feel pretty similar, no?
I think I heard Greybeard in the background when Pegasus said
Yeah.
that. I don't know,
So-
but something to point out: were the second fail of the week and the third in the same game? So technically, the whole dexterity
believe so.
team and then the lobby have got fail of the week in 2 series. This is why, for once, I'm agreeing with Pegasus. I feel there is some fraudulent match fixing going on here, and even worse, some role fixing going on here in the academy tier, and that'd be disgraceful to the integrity of the fail of the week competition. Coming from someone who basically owns fail of the week, this is an integral devastation.
Okay, look, there have been some allegations thrown around. All right, and fail of the week is a very serious award that we hand out every single week. So we will take these allegations to heart. We will conduct an internal investigation, and if there is found to be any suspicion of match fixing, then of course we will take the appropriate actions within the within the league and within the group. So thank you for bringing this to our attention, boys. As of right now, the academy gameplay clip has won fail of the week, but it is pending an independent
investigation.
Yeah.
We will be going. Well, actually, we won't be going to VAR because those guys are useless. But we'll be taking some kind of video replay situation that we can bring forward to you guys.
AFCON situation right now. We're gonna take the trophy away months down the line.
Literally, it's gonna be months as well. It'll be RSC-18 by the time that we get back to this fail of the week and take it away. But either way, we've still got to watch them again. So let's remind ourselves of the fails of the week and your winner this week for the academy gameplay rubbish.
And now we have RSC-eu's fail of the week, brought to you by trophi.ai. Well, if you're on the video this week, you should probably go and buy yourself some coaching under code RSC-eu.
All right, there's an internal game of Mafia going on as well apparently after that one, because look, that last clip, upon rewatching it, is fine until the final moment of that shot. It's Axiom, isn't it? At the end of the day, that's the bit that we need to take a closer look at as we approach the independent board and talk to them about it. But after aliens apparently tried to abduct one of us, we move forward into the weekly awards, as we always do. These are the players of the week from each of the individual tiers in each individual statistic, and we will close it out with the team of the week as well. So let's start, as we always do, in Academy with your weekly awards, your team, or your players of the week, my apologies. And to take us through Academy this week, it's going to be Kingsman Gas.
It is for my franchises, JPEG as your MVP. He's also third place on the finisher, which was taken by Tanny, who got second place on the MVP. It was Big Chat. No, can we remove that? Sorry, after some of the stuff I've just
shooting percentage, shooting percentage
is outrageous. Just saying. Source. That's not the source I'm thinking of, is it? Surely not. I thought he'd long retired. But if that is him, then fair enough. If it's a different source, well, good to see that we're getting varieties of source here on the Playmaker. And then it's Andre, I think, getting Saviour for the second week in a row. So well done to Andre for 3.13 saves per game.
There you go, your players of the week for week 4. Congratulations if you see your name on this list. Let's move then up into the prospect tier. And Pegasus can talk us through the players of the week from week 4 in prospects as we switch over. And there you go. Who got the awards this week?
Starting off, it's Dendo of Mushy P Brains with 570 points per game. Teammate picking up the finisher accolade as well with 2.13. Got me thinking Dendo might show up again for Playmaker. There you go. You start to get a knack for this with 1.5 assists per game there. Just about beating Reki on the tiebreaker. Looking a bit beforehand, we've also got Razor with the perfect 2/3 shooting percentage for Death Cloud. Closely followed there by Jack the Mac on 54%. All three options actually being 50% and above. Then finally, for your Savior accolade is Nama31 of SER Esports with a 2.63. Again, tiebreakers getting involved to get himself in front of Merits. But Nexus isn't too far behind.
And there you go. It's your prospect players of the week. Thank you very much, Pegasus. A couple of multiple mentions for a few players. Congratulations once again if you see yourself on there. Let's move up then to Challenger players of the week, and Kingsman Gas, talk us through it.
And it is Ronan, your MVP, with 518 points per game. He's also your finisher, beating Panda himself to 2 medals, but he's not going to pick up your strike. That's going to be done by Compact and someone without a name in second place. Then it is Panda himself, clearly setting up all the goals with 1.38 assists per game, with Ronan again finding himself on a silver medal. And it's Cairo of Mistaken getting the Savior with 2.5 saves per game, and Spacey being a tied second.
All good coming through from Charlie. And Panda getting himself a couple, 2 silvers and a gold. Great work from Panda himself. Moving up then into the Rival tier. Your players of the week from Rival, MVP, Finisher, Striker, Playmaker, and Savior Pegasus. Who are we looking at this week?
Well, he was on stream. It's Ben to take just over 450 points per game there. Was closely followed by Avelios and Pong. That was actually one of the closest MVPs that I've seen before. Avelios, though, does take a gold somewhere on the board. This is going to be for the finisher accolade, clearing the likes of Ponk and Magic by 0.25 goals per game. Johnny Greenbean, another Team Serene player, shows themselves with a 64.29% shooting percentage. Change will take your Playmaker with 1.13 assists per game. And then there was a tiebreaker for your Savior between Elite and Tex4. 2.38 saves per game for the both of them, which is slight distance away there from Mentsu on 2.25.
Yeah, there you go. Your Rival players of the week. 2 more tiers to take a look at. Let's move up to Elite. And once again, we are going to switch back over to Kingsman Gas to talk us through all of the Elite tier players of the week, Kingsman.
Yeah, and it is E with the MVP, almost 100 points clear of second on 549 points per game. Rahu then beats April, stopping April from getting a gold medal on 1.25 goals per game. Unk still got it. And then it is Ken's on 50% shooting, picking up your striker. Then it's Lumi with 1.5 assists per game. I almost thought for a second we had different teams for everyone, but EOM4CC clearly likes the backboard or likes his own net. He's picked up 3.75 saves per game. It might be the highest average we've seen all season.
It might be. It's certainly up there, isn't it? It's very, very impressive indeed. Great work from the Elite tier. And then we move on finally to our Master tier with Pegasus. Pegasus, what was happening last week in the Master tier for Players of the Week?
Starts off with Yotam taking your MVP with 547 points per game. But of course, Slayer Crime is never too far away from taking that spot. He got 520 for himself. Wallones will be your finisher for week 4 with 1.5 goals per game, beating out both Emil's and MVP Yotam. who also, by the way, took your Saviour on a 3.0. Not very often that we see the MVPs also get the Saviour medal, but I believe that happened last week, and it has happened again this time on a one-off occasion. But
the team of the week, and even if we didn't mention you, then still congratulations, you earned your place on the team of the week for week 4. Only one more of these in the regular season before we move on to playoffs. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. And yeah, that's the same for RSCast. Only one more left of the regular season, boys, before we start taking a look into playoffs. Pegasus, what a season it's been. It's been incredibly short, but we've at least been here for the full time.
yeah, it's been a 5-week season. Only 5 weeks in this season, which is shorter than 9 weeks because it's down to 5. And I'm hoping everyone watching is absolutely hammered on apple juice, of course, because this is still, a Rocket League tournament. But no, it's been great, and it's been a great season for RSCast as well, because even if we somehow cannot get it together next week, and there is always a chance that that is the case, 80% of a regular season is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I feel like we did a good job. Certainly considering our season 16 performance. This is this is a significant step up.
No, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that.
All right. You know what? We're not talking about it. Kingsman, comes to the end of the season. You obviously played one of your games yesterday, as far as I understand. I think, have you still got one more game to play?
Today, I played one of it today. That's the reason that we were an hour late.
Yes.
So, fun fact.
That is absolutely
we were an hour late because I had to play a series because our team's schedule is absolutely horrendous. But yeah, still one more to play from me. I believe Mal's got one to play as well. So between the four of us, we've got 2 series left. Apart from Mal's actually apparently close to top of the table, and we're fighting for top 6, but who knows? A good result in our second game, and yeah, well, Mal, we've heard that one before. We've heard that one before, shall we say? But yeah, who knows what this week could hold with our table being as close as it is.
Who knows? Pegasus, any final thoughts for us?
I've never heard that. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you follow the Twitch streams everywhere. I mean, come on, still going to be some more streams to close out the season, and it's almost the best time of the season, play-ins and playoffs. And you want to have some context when you reach those points. You don't want to miss a single thing, so make sure that you do stick around. And remember what my targets were this week. It's always going to be a defensive clip. I want a fancy flip reset, but when it is on 0 seconds, you need to score to keep your team in contention to get yourself into play-ins. The Psycho's there. The Psycho is always an option. Bring out the secret weapon. And even if you fail, there's always fail of the week.
I shouldn't have given him final thoughts. That's my bad. Kingsman, bring things back to some kind of sense for us with your final thoughts.
Yeah, and well, with the 5-week season, there's so many more teams who still have a chance to make top
How many?
6 or top 3. 5 weeks, and that's a lovely another drink for everyone else. But it gives more teams a chance of making top 6. There's some places where 10th place could still get even 4th place. So the duality of what this has offered us has been brilliant. But yeah, here we go. Final week, final chance to make amends, and final chance. Oh, well, and it could be the final chance and the only time we see a team lose it all.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to wait and see for next week's RSCast if that did indeed happen. But for now, it's been Sir Pegasus. Nope, it's been Sir Pegasus, Kingsman Gas, and myself to take you through all of the action from RSCast. I'm going to get there by the end of it, I promise. We're going to figure it out. But thank you very much to our sponsors, Badass Studios, SpartanWare, trophi.ai, and of course, if you are buying anything in the Epic Games shop, please use RSC-EU as a creator code. It really, really helps everything we do. Thank you to all the match admins. Thank you to Mal behind the scenes. Thank you to Conflict for organizing all of the videos as well. Kingsman, you can shake your head all you like. I'm thanking him nonetheless. But until next week, it's been an absolute pleasure. We will see you very soon. Take care. See you there.
This is trophi.ai, an AI Rocket League coach, and it's absolutely crazy what you can do with this. If you've ever heard of ballchasing.com, it's a lot like that, but on steroids.
You can press P and a pro demo will come up, and this is what's so cool and so unique about Trophi, is that this is not seen anywhere else, and it's just a great way to kind of show you how to do a training pack without having to side by side watch a YouTube video.
And this is actually really cool. Training paths. So you basically, you know the skill trees from Assassin's Creed, Spider-Man, Sekiro, you know that sort of games where you have to, you get skill points, use them, you unlock new skills. This is sort of very similar, but instead of actually getting skill points, you're actually doing the mechs. And also a cool feature as well, guys, watch this. You can slow it down. You can actually slow-mo it like this. So if you're really struggling, what you need to do, you can actually look for yourself and just have a look at them exact sort of movements that you're doing there. Look, it's really cool. I really like it. And
alongside helping with mechanics, it also has a feature that analyzes any of your saved replays. That way you can see what you're doing well and what you need to improve on. It even has this cool post-game analysis that you can see stats from the game you just played.
This isn't just merch. It's what teams wear when they mean business. Every stitch, every print, every detail, made to perform. trusted by the grind, from grassroots to championship halls. Build your team store. Wear the brand that wins. SpartanWare, trusted by the grind.